Welcome to the Mundo Show. My name is Mundo. I am your host, and I am one of Pace Morby's business partners, where we own a 181-unit apartment complex together. I'm a two-time CFO of the year. I own multiple companies. I have been featured in Forbes, and I've spoken on the same stages with some of the best, such as Grant Cardone, Mundo Sanchez, and Pace Morby. I am your host, where we talk all things related to real estate and business. So let's go ahead and dive right in and talk to today's guest. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Mundo Show. Today we have a special guest. We have Christina from Owners Club. Welcome to the show, Christina. Excited to have you on.
Thanks, Mundo. I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm really excited. You're the first Owners Club member that I'm interviewing on the podcast, and we're going to start focusing on interviewing a lot more Owner Club members, getting to know them, getting to know some of the challenges, some of their successes, what their Mount Everest is, what they're working on, and how other people can connect with people, successful people like yourself. So maybe if you want to start off and just give us a little bit about like your background, who you are, where you're from, like those kind of things.
Yeah, I love that. So my name is Christina. Everyone pretty much calls me Krissy from New York. And unfortunately, I'm hoping to leave here soon because it's April and it's snowing. So it's not fun. But I am a new Owners Club member. But I've been in the community, the sub 2 community for almost 2 years. And I've just seen like how much it's changed my life. Me just being able to tap into so many different avenues in real estate, learning creative, having resources. So it was just a no-brainer for me to now get to that next level for my business. So just my real estate background in general. I started in real estate 5 years ago. During COVID, I actually bought my first house, March 12, 2020. And if you can remember that time frame, that's like the same week, like everything shut down.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting time, but that's like really like how I started my journey. My first one was a flip, and I had to just like prove out the concept. So, I was listening to all these podcasts. I kept hearing BRRRR. So I was like, I need to do this BRRRR thing and try it. And that's kind of what started the snowball and just like kind of built my portfolio from then, is just like trying it, everything out, all the experience. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
there's people that have been in sub 2 in the same community for the same period of time, and they haven't done like a deal yet, or maybe they've done like one deal. What do you think separates between those people and someone like yourself?
I think a lot of people don't do enough deals is because of they're stuck in their own mental mind blocks, whether it's analysis paralysis or just over analyzing or not thinking they have enough time and resources. And I mean, granted, I started real estate before I joined Sub 2, but since I've joined Sub 2, I did my first creative deal a couple months later. And it was a novation. So I was able to figure it out because I tapped into resources. I tapped into people I know. I asked questions. And it's a matter of like not just being your own way. Because if we just go out there and do it, like the worst thing that's going to happen is like we lose time and money. So if that's like my worst case scenario, like all bets are off, I'm going to go forward with it. So I tell a lot of people too, like, if you want to get your first deal, if you want to do something, just get out of your own way, because there's so many people out there that's going to support you. And there's just so many resources that we have in today's world.
Interesting. So do you feel like, tell me a little bit about kind of like about the home front, maybe. Do you have support, and do they understand kind of like the vision of what you're building, or is that something that was that something you had to overcome along the way?
Yeah, so it was definitely not like everyone like rooting for me, like, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of adversity. There was a lot of like, don't do that. So my actual W-2 background, I work in electrical construction field. So I would go to work, with all the guys. I'm the only girl, like, in the department. There's not a lot of females there. And when I got this idea, I'm like, hey, I want to do real estate. They're like, nope. The worst thing you could do. I had a tenant 20 years ago and they did XYZ. So good to work. I'm like, damn it, my coworkers are saying not to do it. Then I go tell my dad, I'm like, hey dad, I want to buy this duplex. At the time, it was like $60,000. $60,000. You think I could do it? Don't buy real estate. It's a headache. just invest your money in stock. So those were the kind of conversations that were being had around me, was like no one else is really doing it. And I didn't know anybody that was actually active. So the idea came from my boyfriend at the time, who's now my fiance, and he's like, "Oh, let's do it." And I just kind of took it and ran. I'm like, "I'm gonna try this no matter what." And we kind of have to like filter. If someone's really passionate about something, they're gonna filter out all the noise and just kind of focus on that and not worry about what everyone else around them is saying, whether it's good or bad. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I've had to overcome similar things myself. People don't understand, I mean, it's not normal to go out and buy properties every month, right? I mean,
Yes.
most people are buying properties, once in their every 20 years or something like that. And I
Yeah.
started just buying properties every month, and people are looking around. It's like, what is this guy doing? Like, and
Yeah.
then the close proximity, members of my family, like my wife specifically, will hear me complaining about like tenants and dealing with headaches and all this stuff. And it's like, why are you doing all this? And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a great question. I don't know, but I just know I'm building long term wealth, right?
Yes, exactly. Like, I don't know why, but I like it. I'm doing it. It's whatever.
Yeah. And so, are
Exactly.
you still working a full time job?
Yeah, so it's actually funny because I've been working in that same job for 8 years. And I when people say like, "Oh, I have a job at the time," I laugh because I'm like, we have so much time. A lot of us, especially at our W-2 job, you have to have some downtime. And most of the time, our downtime at work may be like chatting with coworkers. So I'm like, during those downtimes, I'm like doing real estate stuff or anything that I can to fill up that time. So I'm still working my W-2 job, but in January I left the field, so that way I'm more of on a consulting role. So now I have a hybrid role where I can have more flexibility to do that, but I can still leverage it for my projects until I'm like 100% out of there. So I tell people, I'm like, just leverage it, like just look at it as like a tool that you have. Don't commit all of your time and energy into it. It's like now it's like my side job. I'm like, real estate's my main gig, and then I just do this thing on the side. That's my W-2.
Yeah, no, a lot of people, I hear people use their W-2 as a crutch. They're just like, oh, well, I got a W-2, so
Yeah.
I can't really do that much. And I'm like, well, I have a W-2 and you have a W-2 and we're
Yeah.
clearly doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's good to see other people, with a W-2 to show
Mhm.
other people that, hey, just because you have a W-2 doesn't mean you can't, get out there and grind. Like, what are you doing with the other like 6 to 7, 8 hours that you're, not at your job, right? During every day.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you said that because again, like going back to like mental mind blocks, it's just another thing that we can tell ourselves to comfort ourselves of why we're not where we want to be. Because like, oh, you know what, you have a job and you have a family, you have this, and it's like these are all great excuses, but are you going to let it keep you where you are? Or are you going to let it fuel you to kind of get out of that situation?
Yeah. So you joined Owners Club this year, so
Yeah.
that must have meant you went to Squad Up Summit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, nice, nice. I don't know, I don't know if did you happen to see a crazy guy holding a sign
Oh,
at
that
all
was
at any
you?
point? That was me.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I booked a one-way ticket and I had to close on a deal to earn my way back home.
Oh,
So
that's
that's what
awesome.
I kind of have this like point of no return. I call it the point of no return framework that I'm using. It's where like I intentionally put my back up against the wall where like I
Mhm.
have no other outcome but to achieve success. So my outcome for that trip was to earn my way back home. And really the intention behind it was to force myself, even at periods of time when I was tired, to
Yeah.
build new relationships because that's
Mhm.
the only way I could have gotten back home is to figure
Love
out
it.
what people's problems were and figure
Yeah.
out a way to solve them, right?
Yeah.
And so I was up till like, I mean, I'd probably get up at like 7 a.m. and then I wouldn't go to bed till 3 a.m. the following day,
Oh, great.
every day of the conference because I was just, the conference was so busy, right? As far
Yeah.
as the schedule, the only time I had to work on anything was like after 9 p.m. So from that whole time period, I was just building relationships, relationships, relationships. And I talked to, I don't know, probably 75 more people than I normally would have if I
Oh,
wasn't like trying to do that type of challenge. So it was a
yeah.
lot of fun for me. I joined Owners Club this year as well, and I knew, I missed out last year by not joining, and I knew that it's been on my bucket list for like 5 months now that it just had to happen. So I was glad to make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what? I think a lot of us need to do that challenge next year. I love that you said that, just kind of like putting your back against the wall and like having that as a big goal. And you've already seen it. You've connected with so much more people. So I think we all need to sign up for the challenge next year and
Yep.
happen.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So what are some of the things that made you decide to join Owners Club?
So it's actually funny because before I've been in the sub two community, and I'm very involved with my community here in New York, but I haven't really met anybody in Owners Club or talked to them about their experience. But while I was like sitting in Squad Up, I just like kind of just felt like just this big energy shift. And I go to so many other real estate conferences. I'm always at an event. My dad calls me like a conference junkie. Like he's like, oh, you're at another seminar or another thing. Like I'm always at an event, and I can't emphasize on like the feeling that I had there, and just like it being like the best real estate event that I've been to, that was just so authentic. And as Pace was talking about it, we're talking about it, I'm like, I need to really like the shift this year. Like I have to get into other rooms. I need to be around other people that are gonna, help me, that I can access different resources. I'm launching my first business this year, so I'm like, this is really gonna help me get there. So I'm sitting there in my head, I'm thinking about these things, but I didn't want to tell my fiance this because we just got engaged like 2 weeks prior. So I'm like, I can't sit here and tell him like, hey, I'm gonna join Owners Club, and he's gonna look at me like I'm insane. So I'm sitting here thinking about it, and he's not in the community. He doesn't do mentorships. He doesn't do any of that stuff. But he actually turns to me and he's like, I think I want to join Owners Club. So I was like, okay, let's do it. That was it. So
Wow.
it was so interesting to see that, he's not that type of person. Well, he is not your like outgoing person, doesn't like the meetups, events, things like that. And for him to like feel that same like impact, being there and want to join, just like kind of solidified it to me like, no, I'm not a crazy meeting junkie. This is like serious. Like this is an actual community that we need to be a part of. So he wasn't in step two, and he joined with me, and now we're like, full force in Owners Club. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
What's interesting is that, obviously there's a price barrier to get into Owners Club.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
pretty high one, as you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I had leading up to that challenge that I did, I kind of had two challenges. I had the first challenge was 30 days before. I
Hmm.
had to close as many deals as possible to fund my way there, and
Yeah.
then I had to fund my way back. So when I
Yeah.
funded my way there, I had whatever my budget was, I had to make
Mhm.
that last the whole trip. So
Yeah.
I had like $200 left. It was like I think it was like day two,
Hmm.
and everyone, the people that I was with, they wanted to go to a steakhouse,
Hmm.
and you could easily sit there and like pinch pennies and be like, I got $200 left. I can't go to like $150,
Mhm.
steakhouse, right?
Yeah.
And I think my meal ended up being like 189 with the tip and everything. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I pretty much smoked my whole budget, right? So it was
Yeah.
very easy to be like, oh no, I need to conserve every last penny I have. And
Yeah.
getting into something like Owners Club, and just even in that room of like the steakhouse, because I get to the steakhouse, I look around me and it's like Owners Club, Owners Club, Owners Club, Owners Club. Like everybody in the room in the steakhouse is in Owners Club. And
Yeah.
it's just like getting in the room. And sometimes getting in that room comes with a higher price tag, and you have to be willing to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
So I took, what was my last $200 and smoked 189 of it essentially, just to get in the room, right? And those
Yeah.
are the kind of sacrifices and things you have to make to get to the next level.
Yes, that is so important, and I love that you mentioned that, because I think it's a concept that not everyone understands, and like sometimes we they see that ticket, they're like, oh my god, you're gonna spend that much to be there, but like you said, you don't know who you're gonna be, who you're gonna be next to, who you're gonna be talking to that's gonna help you with your problems, or that you might help them with something, and it's just like sometimes it's just the price we have to pay if we want to get to where we want to be. So.
Yeah. So you started a business. Tell me about that. What is that? What kind of business is that?
So it's still in the works actually. It's actually a co-working space business where
Okay.
it's a kind of like a different concept where you're it's a mix between real estate and business where we're leasing private office suites, having co-working day passes, but also an event center for other businesses to have their large meetings, events, meetups, and then a private content room because we all know content is,
Yeah.
king for your business nowadays. So we have a content room that we're building out specifically for content creators, entrepreneurs, freelancers to now have a dedicated space. So it's actually, my first business, but it's really almost tied to real estate. And I'm, getting equity in the building for doing this. So it's something that I'm like, it's interesting. It's like nerve wracking sometimes when you're like looking at it, but I know that like being a part of this community is going to help me kind of, combat some of those things that's going to come up with, your first startup business and things like that. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. So
That's awesome. I
yeah.
bet, so are you like designing the content room and everything and having professional like audio, video, like all that kind of stuff?
Yes, yeah. So everything is like, and that's the good part about, just starting everything from scratch. Everything is just like built out to like what we would want to see today, like what you would want to see for an ideal podcast studio, an ideal content room. So like everything is going to be designed for a content creator or business owner to come in and say, this is my go-to content studio. I just have to show up and get someone to record, and that's it. And that's what we wanted to do is just like, eliminate all the things that we want to battle for business, right? Having somewhere where you can meet someone, and having someone where some place where you can actually have a meetup or a small event, and then having somewhere where you could do content. So it's really just a space that's going to cater to different needs. And it's in New Jersey. So it's really prime location where New Jersey's just growing right outside of the city. So really excited about the project, but it's my first business. So, so I'm relying on Owners Club to to help with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
thank
sure.
you.
I'm sure it's not cheap either because I like this microphone right here is like $300. Like I'm just like designing because I got a studio in my basement, so I know it's not the cheapest endeavor.
No, it is not cheap. And but it's good that you said that because these are the things that we want to help people with. Because as a small entrepreneur, maybe you don't want to spend $300 or build out
Hmm.
a content studio in your basement, but you can say, hey, maybe for like $100 for the weekend, I can book this out and do all my content in one shot. That's what we want to offer to people and just make it more seamless for, your everyday investor entrepreneur, because we have enough to deal with already. We have, like you said, we have tenants calling us, we have the properties to underwrite, everything, and like last thing we want to think about is logistics to do our content to boost our business. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
did you acquire this? So you bought the property? Is that what you're doing in the content like business that you're doing?
No, it's funny because this is the power of networking, right? So I'm gonna break it down. So about 2.5 years ago, Pace did an event in Newark, New Jersey, and there was about like almost 1,000 people there. It was a
Oh,
huge
wow.
event. And I don't like big events like that where just so many people. So I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. Pace's flight was like delayed or almost canceled. So he got there like hours after. So I was like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna go home. But something told me like just stay for like when Pace shows up, stay there for 5 minutes and then leave. So I stayed there 5 minutes into when Pace got there, and I met someone who's from Philadelphia, and we hit it off, and we're like, okay, let's stay in contact. So it was great. So a year later, he messaged me like, hey, I'm gonna be in Hackensack. I think that's like a little close to you. Do you want to meet me? We're doing this holiday party. I didn't even know what it was. It was 2 hours before, and I was like, sure. Like whatever it is, like for some reason in my head, whenever an opportunity, like, I always just show up no matter what. So I drove over there. It wasn't that close to me, it's an hour still, but I just drove over there. And the holiday party was their like closing party of a building they just bought in Hackensack. So I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty interesting. And since then, I've been in, like I made a good contact and relationship with the building owner. And we just go for lunch and we chat. And I was telling her about this idea that I have. I'm like, I want to do this thing. What I want to buy this building in New York, but the owner wants a little too much for it. And what she told me, she's like, can you actually do that in my building? And I'll give you equity, for doing it. And it could still be your business, but like, you can get some equity in the building without, actually like, doing it. So I was like, absolutely. So that's kind of how that happens. And again, it was authentic relationship. It wasn't like, I was cold calling and trying to find a building. It was just me being out there, having a concept, and she likes it. She wants me to do it, and she's giving me first year lease for free for doing it. I'll have equity in the building, so I'll get, whatever I'm paying for a lease as the business, I'm going to get it back by the rent for being a, partial owner of the building. And yeah, and there's just so many benefits. So something
Wow.
I'm looking to implement going forward, but that's the backstory for this one.
That's amazing. I've always had it as a goal to do exactly what you're doing. So
Yeah.
congratulations. I've always wanted to have like a kind of like a, real estate type of meetup event venue area with a podcast place. Like, so the vision I had, which in my head, I'm thinking, it's maybe that's like a year or 2 years out. You're doing it right now. So that's awesome.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. And that's exactly why I really want to do it, is because I think once the model is established, it could be easily implemented in any other market. So
Mhm.
you have a footprint and you said, hey, this is the layout. Now we can create it in our own markets and have our own business center slash networking hub for people like us.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Yeah.
what, tell me about like some of the stuff you're working on right now in real estate.
Yeah, so real estate has been it's been so funny because when I've been since we joined Owners Club, we've been, focusing on our Mount Everest and really narrowing down what our, what we want to focus on. And actually before I joined Owners Club, I really was focusing on my vision, my 3-year vision about just being focused on this and saying no to everything else. So my Mount Everest is developing a 60 unit complex, which will consist of like 3 separate wings, one for senior housing, one for veterans, and another one for like single parent households. So this is like something that I've been really focusing on with like getting everything engineering involved, architects, and really like narrowing down the land. And it's so funny because once you kind of get really focused on something, so many other things start to happen. And what I say that because my previous vision was to get as much single families as I can, like sub twos, anything that I can. And now I'm at a point where I get so many of those. And so I'm still picking up more single families in Georgia. I get more creative. So I just got one on Friday, like a sub two, 3.5% in Georgia. And now like those are kind of flowing more. So I'm still buying those and doing some flips in New York. But my main focus, which I'm trying to stick to, is a development project. So hopefully I don't get any more single families because then I'm like, yes, I switched my focus. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So have you had any, I guess, what are some of the challenges that you've had either, in the beginning, if you think about like when you're starting, or even some of the stuff you're dealing with now, right? Like what are some of the challenges you're going through in starting a new business?
I think some of the challenges is probably like what I was just talking about, just like staying focused. Because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to get shiny object syndrome, and people will pull you into directions that you just like don't belong in. And there's a lot of things that I should be saying no to that I'm not saying no enough to. That now, like for every time I say yes to that, I'm saying no to my project because I'm taking time away. So it's something that I feel like, if anyone is wants to be focused on one thing, having that diligence to like stay on top of it, stay, steady no matter what, because, these bigger projects are hard. I'm sure it's not like it comes overnight. There's a lot of rejection. A lot of, sellers don't want to give up their land. Or a lot of owners, they just want a high, price for what what they want for their property. So it doesn't happen quickly. And, we can pick up a single family like this, and it may sound easier to just keep doing that, but it's just a constant reminder to like remember our vision, remember the Mount Everest and why we're doing it, to kind of stay on top of that.
Yeah. So touching on your Mount Everest, like what are some of the things that have to be true in order for you to achieve that, right? Because that's a pretty big goal. What's your kind of like roadmap to get there?
So some of those things is educating myself enough. I would say because it's a new avenue for myself, there's a lot of the things that I don't know. And like they say, like you don't even know what you don't know. So um most of my like roadmap is like really just learning as much as we can about that, like learning what we need, what kind of capital is needed, like things from other people's experiences, because like that is like really crucial for a project like this, is just knowing and understanding. And like my first roadblock was that, like understanding what a comp plan is. I've been in real estate, but I've never knew or read a comp plan until I started going down the development route. And some people may still not know what that is. So like just like continuously educating on what we need to know, what we should know, has been like a crucial part for this avenue, because what I've seen is like the people that educate themselves and just do the work will get so much further just from that alone than the people who are just like, whatever, like I know everything, or I don't need to do this. So that's why like those two things are really crucial for me to even get to the next step.
And are you wanting to acquire that in New York, or are you looking at other markets for that?
Yeah, no, I don't want any more holds in New York. New York is not fun for landlords.
Yep.
No, so this is all in Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made Georgia a core focus for you?
So, I was actually not really looking in Georgia. I was looking to get out of New York because of the landlord tenant laws here. But I have family in the military, so my aunt was like, "Oh, why don't you come down and start looking in the, Savannah area?" She's like, "There's so much growth here happening. You have the military base." So I was like, "Okay, I'll go down. I'll just look at some things." I went down and looked at it, and I put an offer on a house like 2 years ago, and like I got my first rental down there, and I just kept going from there. And I saw, the difference. I saw how easy it was to do things. I saw how, how nice the people were. In New York, I'm sure they were not the friendliest. People even think I'm weird. They're like, "Why are you so nice if you're from New York?" um, so I realized how much smoother it can be, and if I set up shop there. So that's why I really narrowed down to that market and just spend as much time, going back and forth, learning the neighborhoods, learning the market, talking to the city officials about what's going on, what's happening, what they need. And those are some of the things that's helped me really just narrow down to that market.
Okay, nice. Yeah, a lot of people are probably um, scared to venture into a market that they don't live in, right? But it seems like you've kind of figured it out, right? It's developing
Mhm.
relationships, and then once you start buying more and more property, things become easier. You get synergies in that area, kind of
Yeah.
almost as if it's in your backyard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I look at it as that. I really don't want to be super hands on, and I felt like when I did have properties in New York, like you can easily go back and forth. You drive over there and take care of things. But in Georgia, it forces me to outsource. It forces me to have a system, because I can't just take a flight there out on a random Tuesday. So it's really helped me just like learn how to leverage other people, how to leverage systems. And I would love it, and I always suggest to people, I'm like, do your first investment out of state, and that's what teach you, because if you do your first investment in your backyard, you're going to always run to it, because it's
Yeah.
just second nature.
Yeah, I would say that was a mistake I did. I've just recently started learning to delegate more on the
Mhm.
property management side because I have a bunch of properties in my core market. And
Mhm.
just like you said, I mean, if there was a problem, I would just show up, right? I
Yeah.
would fix a lot of things myself.
Yep.
And now I'm getting to the point where it's like there's so many. Yeah, I just bought 5 properties last month, and then there's like a bunch of issues happening all at once. Like I can't
Oh,
just spend my whole day just going all these different properties. So I've
exactly.
had to, really learn to delegate and value my time more, even though it costs me more money. When I measure that against the true value of my time, it
Yeah.
doesn't cost me more money. But like financially, it's like, okay, well, normally I would have handled that myself. Now I'm paying someone to do that. But what are going back to what you said before, when you're saying yes
Mhm.
to certain things and you're saying no to your vision, it's like I'm doing the same thing, right? If I'm trading my time for money,
Yeah.
I'm saying no to what my Mount Everest is as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it takes a lot, right, to not be super hands-on, because like I said, we're second nature. I can fix it myself. And it's something that we kind of have to break out of that mindset, because my dad is very much about that. He wants to be super hands-on. And even, there's something I'm like, hey, why don't you pay a cleaner for this? Oh, I'm not going to clean. I'm going to save $200 cleaning myself. And, that mentality, right? It's like what most of us grew up on. So it does take a lot to break out of that. Like, no, I can pay someone to do this and it's going to be well worth it. And it may not be as much as we think it's going to be. So it's maybe worth it for us to outsource and pay someone else than think about how we're going to do it all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how have you leveraged the community, or how can like people that are in the community work with you, send you deals? Like maybe tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm so active in the community, especially between Owners Club and Sub 2. And I really just look for just more collaboration for us to all figure out what we all need. So one of my things is I'm looking for more private investors to either, invest in my business and invest in my projects. So I'm really looking for people who want to invest, for the long term, not 12 months. Like these are investments that are going to be at least 2 years. So mainly looking for that and just like connecting with authentic people. I really, really try to encourage people just to be real with themselves, because a lot of times we won't be able to find what we're looking for if we're not honest with ourselves. And I've been being more honest with what I need. And before, maybe last year, I probably wouldn't come out and say I need private money. I'd be like, oh no, everything's good. I'm just doing this. But now I'm like, no, I need access to more capital. I'm not going to get these projects done without it. So I'm going to pinpoint that and shout it from the mountaintops and hope that someone brings it. And in return, hopefully we work together on other deals or just, build with like real relationships. So that's really what I'm looking for in the community this year, and just to learn as much as possible from everyone. So.
What if someone's new? Like what is there any like content or anything that you're doing that new people can learn from you?
Yeah, I think for anybody that is new, I think they need to just really figure out what value they're going to bring to someone. Especially if you want to learn something specifically. I think people hate the "Can I pick your brain?" I think that should actually go away. That term. No one wants to ever hear "Can I pick your brain?" when they put so much time, money, and effort into what they know today. So I would figure out what value you can bring to someone, right? If you have a really good skill for delegating, or a trade that you really know a lot about, or just like really a lot about AI, like, hey, this is what I can offer. I'm willing to teach anybody about this, and I'm also looking for someone to teach me XYZ. Right, that's probably the best way that you can build a relationship, and it's actually like both parties are getting something out of it instead of just a regular pick your brain, I'll buy you coffee. So I think that will really help. And then also just like setting some deadlines for yourself. Like if you really, having your Mount Everest and say like, I want to buy my first deal by September. What are you going to do every week that's going to lead you up to a closed transaction by September? So that's like, I'm really big on deadlines about having that. And I follow like a 12-week year model where every quarter is a year for me. So there's certain deadlines I have to hit by each quarter. So I definitely recommend people to set deadlines, set expectations for yourself, because no one else is going to. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like you're spending a lot of time planning in your calendar. Is that do you do that a lot?
Yes, yes, I'm a big planner. So I love planning,
Okay.
organizing.
So have
Yeah.
you watched the calendar series yet?
Yeah, so I didn't finish watching it. I started watching the first one to
Yeah.
kind of like figure out how to filter your calendar and things like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
watched the first well, yeah, I watched the first one. I started on the second one, but then Paige started talking about watching the Mount Everest one. So I started
Mm,
watching that and finished that. So that way I think we're having a call tomorrow, probably, something like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 10
So I'm
a.m.
gonna go back and finish that second one because I'm really trying to execute well on my calendar. I think I'm doing a pretty good job at planning. I'm just a little too ADD about like jumping
Yeah,
all over the place. So I need to get really more regimented about staying true to like my non-negotiables and making sure I'm hitting those deadlines.
yeah, yeah.
So that those are some things that I'm working on as well.
Nice. Yeah,
So
that's exciting. And I'm sure you'll like once you kind of establish that, you'll look back and like, wow, I have so much more free time now that I got rid of these things, compiled this. And that like, it's really I forgot who says it, but like show me your calendar, I'll show you something. I forgot how it goes, but it's true. It's like, you know, you'll see where most of your time is going when you look at your calendar. Like, I don't think I need 30% of this. So
Yeah, no, I noticed when I started tracking things, a lot of my time was going towards property management. So that's where I started looking at, it's like, okay, I need this to go away, right? So then I ended up hiring someone full time to kind of take over my property management. And I'm still in the process of training that person.
mhm.
So it's still, you know, there's still a lot of overlap to where I'm heavily involved in it still. But my hope is that in the next 2 or 3 months, that starts to kind of fall off and I can start to
Yeah.
scale out of that and replace that time with something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that'll be great.
And I've seen, you know, I've seen a lot of people, or mainly in the W-2 space, where some sort of automation gets introduced or something gets removed from their job. Maybe they had a lot on their plate and
Mhm,
someone else got hired, and then now they're taking over that responsibility. I think
mhm.
what I've seen is what separates average people from people that excel is the average people that are okay with just kind of clocking in, clocking out. When
Yeah,
that stuff gets removed from their plate, they do nothing with their time, right? They just kind of drag it out. But the people that really excel, they're
mhm.
removing things off their plate to replace that time with value added activities to continue to grow and move to the next level. And that's the difference that I've seen is that, you know, the people that aren't thinking that way, they're just like, oh, cool. Now I can, you know, go play on my phone for an extra hour a day.
Exactly. Yeah. No, listen, I be coming from the field, I've seen it. All the guys, as soon as we have a break, they just sit back, they're on Instagram, looking on that. And it's like that's just because we don't like we're not like have a to-do list and say, "Hey, I'm going to fill it with this." And it goes back to like having just good time management. So if you have time management skills, you're like, "Oh no, I have this opportunity. I can fill it here. I can make a phone call or do this with now that extra time that I didn't have before." So, so yeah, it's huge. It's a huge difference once you're aware of it and you know want to do something about it.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
it for me, it's a game changer just managing my time. That's probably one of the most just important things I would say to my success is just making sure I'm executing and planning my time appropriately.
yeah, yeah, and that's it's so important. You'll see, it's going to be a big difference.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how can people find you? Are you on social media? Like do you have a Instagram, YouTube channel?
Yes, I'm all over. I'm just not a TikTok girly yet. So,
Okay.
um, but all of my socials are Krissy Krissy _real estate. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube there, and my Facebook is Christina. That's Kristina Mullings, and I post there every day. So I have various content there, and also I do a YouTube series interviewing entrepreneurs and real estate investors in the New York, New Jersey area. So. So yeah,
Amazing.
so we're doing a lot of content this year.
Amazing. I'm sure you're going to use your new business venture as kind of a source of leads for people to interview, right? Because you're going to have direct access to the people that are making content a priority because you're probably going to see who's booking, right? And then that's an
Yeah.
opportunity for you to connect with them and build a relationship with them. So, I mean, there's a lot of intangible benefits to that kind of business as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole idea about it as well is to help other business owners collaborate along with it and having a modern actual like think about a modern chamber of commerce. I think most of the chamber of commerce no one really goes, but that's really what it is creating a business hub for everyone to collaborate, have resources, and we're just incorporating it into today's world of what every business owner or entrepreneur needs, especially in event space where we can all meet up, get together, do content, and get some work done. That's all we want to do.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. You'll have to let me know how it goes with this new business venture. When do you plan on launching?
September 1st.
September 1st. All
Yes.
right. You got
Yeah.
some time. You're
Yeah.
building
We
up
have some
to it.
time.
Yeah.
We'll do a grand opening party, invite all owners club. So
Nice. That's very
yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
so are you currently leasing space right now at all, or you kinda just got it, you know, in the works and you're not necessarily paying yet?
Yeah, so I got a great deal with the owner of the building, and she's like, no lease for the first year, so that way we can set up shop. and I
Wow.
can get everything launched. So she agreed that we won't do a lease for year one. And then year two, we'll implement the lease, but then I'll have equity in the building. So some of it's coming back to me. And just a tip for anybody that's launching anything new. There's if you talk to your economic development center, they have a lot of grants and incentives for for businesses, and they said that our first and second year lease, you can get 40% of your money back. So
Wow.
there's like a lot of incentives. They have that as well as a $50,000 grant for construction costs. So, and for any people that's buying commercial real estate or buying real estate, they also do up to $50,000 reimbursement for your closing costs. So, even if you're not in New Jersey, if you're doing any kind of new development or a new purchase, talk to whoever at your economic development center because I'm sure there's some grant or program out there for you.
Wow. So do you think that applies for like not just new development, new construction, but just like, buildings that have been around?
Yes, it applies, especially for this building. She said, yep, it applies for that. And the building owner was actually happy with me because now she just bought the building a couple months ago. And now she just found out that she can get all of her closing costs reimbursed just from, the conversations we had alone. So yeah, there's so much value that can be added for both ways if we look at it that way. But I would highly recommend anyone to talk to someone at their economic development about, what kind of incentives are out there for us real estate investors.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't, so you could do that even after closing? I figured you would have to get that lined up before you would close on the property.
Nope, you have up to a year to do it. Yeah.
Wow.
This is for New Jersey specifically, so I don't know everyone else's how it is, but you have up to a year to apply for the grant. And the same applies for the lease grant that we're going for and the construction grant we're going for. You have up to a year after that to apply for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate your time and coming on the show. I'm excited to kind of watch your journey and how that all plays out. Because again, I mentioned you're kind of living part of my dream by launching that studio. So it's gonna be amazing. I'm excited to watch that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to come on again. So thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.